everybody, and good morning. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Saturday morning, or again, as always, it may be Saturday evening or it may be Sunday morning, depending on where you are around the world. But as always, it is a pleasure to have you here as our special guests, as always, as we get to interview our special guests and make those connections. So I'm really excited if you guys are joining us. Hopefully, maybe you're having your cup of coffee, your breakfast, whatever it is, your morning routine. Thank you so much for making my EdTech life part of your Saturday morning. And today we have a wonderful guest, a great friend. I can definitely call him a great friend now. He has been on the show before. He is an amazing, well, let me see if I have enough fingers here to count the amazing things that this gentleman can do. He is an author. He is, just an education leader, an amazing, well, like I mentioned, author, but he's definitely an amazing writer. He has been also a great supporter of many of the projects that I've, done, collaborations, things of that sort. Just an all around great guy, great heart, great educator, and definitely somebody that's worth connecting with. Here, I want to introduce you to my great friend, Matthew Rhoads, or Matt Rhoads. So, Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Bonds. Thanks for having me. It's always fun just catching up with you and talking education, ed tech, and life. And, it's great that some people can join us along the way, whether you're live now or later on when this is on all the major, podcasting platforms. So it's really fun to be here.
Yes, of course, man. And it's been a while since you've been on. I know you were on, about time of pandemic. You actually wrote a book during that time, and we'll talk a little bit about that and just everything that you've been able to do. But just for our audience members, that will be listening later on that may not have had the opportunity to connect with you or maybe have heard of you, Matt, if you could just give us a nice intro, and then of course, and your context in education, and tell us maybe something interesting about yourself that people may not know.
Yeah, everyone, Dr. Matt, or you can call me Matt, whichever one you prefer. I am a tech trainer and integrationist for a consortium of schools in northern San Diego County. I just left the classroom teaching mild to moderate special education in co-taught settings, as well as more specialized academic instruction settings. And I was a tech coach at that time, and doing a lot of consulting around the West Coast on EdTech integration, research-based instructional strategies with tools like Pear Deck, Nearpod, Padlet, Google Workspace. I really have enjoyed doing that. And then, all of my work has really culminated over the past 2 years, and it's resulted in the position I am in now. And it's just really exciting because I've been doing a lot of things that I was just doing on the side now in my full-time position. So that's been really enjoyable, and I get to really, build the program and really, work to support and coach teachers, and really kind of put this program on the map for, it's a consortium of adult and education programs and CTE programs. And my goal is to put us in a position to being one of the most advanced in terms of technology in the country. That's kind of where my vision will go. So it's just been, super exciting, and got a lot of projects going on now as well. And I just really hope that in the next 12 months that I can start meeting some of you at conferences and whatnot. It's been definitely the missing piece of all this, that my PLN is that I just want to meet you all in person, and, and have further conversations with you, because, on Twitter, you only can talk about so much, but, when you're in person, building that connection, that relationship. And to me, that's what I enjoy doing the most. And I really hope that, that can happen in the future.
Excellent. Well, like I said, this is great, the way that we're able to connect again. I know you're a previous guest, and you've been doing some amazing things. And let me just give a big shout out to Amanda. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us. Amanda's over there in the West Coast as well. So she's up and early today, hopefully with her cup of coffee and everything. And as always, thank you, Amanda, for always supporting our show. So Matt, let's talk a little bit about this. Let's go back to maybe your first episode appearance here on my EdTech Life. And during that time, you had just released Navigating the Toggle Term right here, this book. All right, this is the copy of the first book. And you got to come on and, just share a little bit more about the book, everything that you're doing. So talk to us a little bit of course, as always, our audience members that may not know about this book. How did it come to fruition? What was the vision? And how did that now lead to the second book, Navigating the Toggle Term, right here, which is this new copy that we have here. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the first one was a culmination of initially, it was inspired from one of my doctoral professors, Dr. Belinda Karj, and just kind of like my blog. And I just started wanting to support educators as, we were in emergency pandemic instruction. A lot of people were online, and, a lot of places needed a good, practical, and applicable book to help them navigate, moving online or within a blended learning situation, which I've been doing in my entire career in the classroom. And I just wanted to provide my expertise in a real practical way to connect with people so that they can, provide the best instruction and classroom environment as possible, regardless of where they were, and so that they can move between all these different settings. So that is really essentially one of the main reasons why I wrote the book. And it was definitely an exciting piece of the last year, and a lot of traction from the original book really helped me move into, supporting districts outside of my district and schools and throughout California and Arizona, and just really, got me out there. And I wanted just to make an impact, whether it was in my backyard or whether it was, in a district that was a little bit further away from mine. And I knew that we just needed to, across the board, just, help teachers navigate this time. And that's really essentially how that book came to be. And it is definitely was something that I wrote in like 3 months. I put it really quickly together, but it turned out well. So that was definitely just the story of the first book. And it kind of just led me on a journey of continuing to write, whether it was my blog or, and then just writing future books. So that's the first book.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about that, just the first book, because I found this first book to be very fascinating. Just at least during this time, this was definitely one of the great things to have in your teacher tool belt, because it really gave you an understanding of the verbiage that was out there, the of course, the hybrid, HyFlex cohort models, this and that. And of course, as teachers, having to flip the switch from being in brick and mortar to going directly online, that is something that is not easy. And even for online professors that do this in higher ed, it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of years to be able to be very highly effective, teaching your students in this online model. But what you provided here was really a toolkit that is very valuable. And I do recommend this book. And not just because Matt's my friend, but just myself being just an EdTech, just enthusiast, always looking, for professional development, and always just having that tool set in season and out of season. This book is definitely a great book to have, and it is an easy read, and it's very, very just straight to the point that can really help you. But you mentioned that this was sort of kind of like a project that you did have during your doctoral study. So I kind of want you, I want you to describe or to let us know what navigating the toggle term actually means. Where did you get that, for as far as
so what's funny is that when COVID happened, I was working on a book on data literacy. It's just sitting here seriously on my computer. No one wants to talk about it right now over the past 2 years. So it's just sitting here on my computer. And I was like, well, I want to help people right now. So let me just take what I'm doing on my day-to-day basis in the classroom, and I want to support them. So that's, the genesis of that book. And Toggled came from Brian Alexander, who is a futurist in higher education, and he came up with the term toggle term in the higher education world of moving back and forth between online and brick and mortar. And I took that term and applied it to everything. So, and I took that and I provided instructional models to go along with the toggle term, and really essentially building the framework and infrastructure to do it with, a snap of your fingers. That's the goal. And I think that where teachers need to be is having that and just moving forward into the future, and which we'll talk about in my second book, which is a lot of the premise of it, is that I think that we're unfortunately in a world now where that's going to be the case. And I think where we're currently at in education, we need to have classrooms without boundaries. And the toggle term relates to being able to have that classroom without those boundaries of, the four walls. It just opens it up to everything so that you could be teaching online, in person, blended, at the park, in the space station, on Mars. So I don't know, but you get the point. So.
No, and that's wonderful. This is something that, of course, changed the education landscape, for good. Now we saw things that many times, many people, maybe even teachers, educators, education leaders had a vision of, but never really said, well, when would we have an opportunity to do this in a mass scale? And now we saw how, teachers can be highly effective without the brick and mortar.
Yep.
We have students that were thriving that, are very organized. They can go in there, they can just go do their work, and they're ready to go. And their school starts at 8. They're already done with everything by 11, or things of that sort, submitted stuff in. But, we did see the other side too, where there are those students that do need a little bit more of that structure. And then, of course, the fear of the tech that really got to a lot of, of our fine educators that were, years of experience, veteran teachers, that it was really something that was difficult. But then I've also seen those leaders that had been in education for years, that all of a sudden this was a breath of fresh air for them, where now they're seeing like, wow, this tech helps me just kind of put this like on rails. And so big shout out to my friend Isaac for, that term. It's like putting things on rails, where now the productivity, they're like, hey, I can do this a lot easier. I've even had some teachers say, I was planning on retiring soon, but I can keep on teaching for a little bit longer, because now they're more familiar with those tech tools and they lost that fear. So I've been able to see all of that. And so, but it is important, like you said, that we're able to see that there's so many more possibilities, that education does not have to be confined to those four walls. And one thing that you mentioned was being able to connect with everything around us. Our classroom can one day be, straight from the park, or a classroom can be straight from a space station. And I think now that teachers, education leaders can see the bigger picture and see that this is kind of our new thing now. This is where we can really, really take education to that next level. And so with books like this, that definitely helps teachers really just start feeling a little bit more comfortable. So now, you just released a couple of weeks ago the new, right, Navigating the Toggle Term, a guide for K-12 classroom and school leaders. And what I love about this is that this is a great group that you collaborated with. I mean, education leaders that were out there continually hustling, sharing with teachers their knowledge, putting it out on Twitter. And so looking at the people that you've collaborated with, you've got teachers, you've got administrators, you've got people from all different viewpoints. And I think that's something that's so important, to be able to see things through a different lens. And so that definitely helps us as educators see that this isn't just going just from one side, but how everything can connect and work together. So tell us a little bit about, of course, this book, the people you collaborated with, and again, as always, just the inspiration behind it.
Yeah, so I just really wanted to add a whole new spin to the first book and really just dive deeper into just really integrating a lot of just strategies with technology. But beyond that, I wanted to focus on, how does that look like when you're working with neurodiverse students or multilingual learners, or going in further into depth with your own professional development? And then I think one of the most important chapters of the book is the last one, chapter 12, self-care. Sets up a framework not only just for your own personal self-care, but taking educational organizations and helping them create, for example, I think one of the biggest things that education organizations can do is for self-care is getting rid of a lot of meetings and providing time for educators to do what they want in terms of planning, whether they get the afternoon. I think just that freedom and flexibility piece currently in the world that we live in is huge. I also talk about, setting boundaries. And sometimes I'm not the best person to talk about setting boundaries with regarding like work, but I've really, tried to set times when I'm going to just focus on being with my family, being with my friends, just being in the present. And so that last chapter really hits it, I think, just because there's been so much burnout. And we want to have a sustainable profession. And it really talks about, how can we do that at the institutional organizational level, as well as, the personal level. And I think that just across the board, I think the book sets us up for developing modern 21st century classrooms that have no boundaries, no borders, and allows us to really navigate the time that we're in, and just, providing instruction for all of our students in a really equitable way. And it's all research based. And there's a lot of strategies there that can really amplify how our students learn. So it's just a big culmination of that. And then I took 13 educators from across the country, whether they're a classroom teacher, administrator, superintendent, and I wanted them to write a case study that describes how each of the chapter's themes occurred on their end. Like, how did they integrate, for example, the last one, self-care in their life? Or, for example, for professional development, we had an author talk about their professional development journey over the past 12 years, navigating Twitter and all these different trainings. Then we had someone talk about moving between online and blended learning throughout the year multiple times. We had someone talk about engaging families and students, building that online digital community, as well as that physical in-person community that talks about in that chapter. So really the case studies are there to, I think just, first off, provide that true example of that things I talk about in the book are taking place and how it's done, and provides that human connection and shows the vast diversity of what's going on across North America. And I think that gives educators hope, because there's not just one way to do things. There's so many different ways to do things. And hopefully that just gives them peace of mind that, you may be doing something a little bit different, but that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. So that's really the premise of this book. And it's supposed to be really the guide for, classroom and school leaders as we progress into this unpredictable future that we're in. Who knows what it's going to look like? Even though a lot of us are back in school in person, we're seeing schools having to quarantine, 5,000 students, 3,000 students, or a small cohort of students, a class here and there. And it really just helps us navigate those types of things that are happening, and providing instruction for students that may not be there in person, and allows you as a classroom, as a teacher, set up your classroom so that you are able to move between any setting, so that you can provide that instruction for your students. So it's been a fun project.
Yeah, I think you've hit on so many great points there, and especially looking at the list of authors. But I think the most important thing, is, like I mentioned earlier, is always being able to see things through a different lens. And the fact that you brought in those administrators, classroom teachers, and people that serve in different capacities, and they're able to share their experiences, that is something that is very powerful, because it's evidence that, what they are doing worked. And maybe, like you said, it may mimic or have some similarity to something that another teacher may be doing, and now they feel that confirmation, like, okay, I'm good, I'm doing well. It's a little variation, but then now they can add some of what is already here in this book that you collaborated with, and then sprinkle it on to what they are already doing great. And it just becomes that additional layer to take things to the next level. So
Yep.
teacher readiness, teacher preparedness. One of the main things I think is also that the self-care. I mean, it was very tough for a lot of teachers, and now coming back, to brick and mortar, it seems oftentimes and I've mentioned this before in previous shows, that muscle memory kicks in.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm talking now, the muscle memory kicks in for a lot of administrators, that all of a sudden it's like, hey, we're back in school now, we're going to go back and do exactly what we used to do, because now we've got to get our test scores up, and we've got to get these ratings, and we've got to do this. And I'm thinking to myself, well, where's the self-care for the teachers, where we're supposed to be taking care of them, maybe lightening their load, but instead of taking a couple of things off their plate, like you mentioned, we're adding more to their plates, and they are already overwhelmed, stressed, things, in the classroom, like you mentioned, just the fear, the burnout, being tired, and they're still expected to perform the way they once did back when they were in brick and mortar. So I think those are some of the things that, those education leaders, if there are some, education leaders out there, we need to make sure we see that, hey, teachers are there in the front lines. They're the ones that are going to be, taking care of our students. So we want to make sure that we take care of them as well. And, like Amanda said here, in this sense, he said, practice what you preach. I would, ask administrators to please, be cautious, take care of your teachers. And, we talk a big game as far as self-care, but are we doing it? And that's something that's very important, especially now. But again, going back to, just being ready and prepared. I love, like you said this, being able to switch, as soon as that switch flips, you can go back to online, you can come back to face to face. And those are important things that teachers need as well. So man, this is awesome. So definitely recommend. I just started reading this one, the second one that that you wrote. And so I'm really excited. Like I said, I'm always looking to, equip myself as always, being at the ready, in season and out of season always. So that's great. Well, Matt, let's talk a little bit more now that we talked about your books and how everything started. I mean, during pandemic, I've had the pleasure of continually keeping communication with you after your first appearance here on the show. Uh, and I just want to say publicly, thank you so much for your support as I myself am going through doctoral studies. You've been, always willing to help. I can send you a message. You help me see things through a different way, so in a different way, different perspective, and things of that sort. So I really want to say thank you for your support in that aspect, and also support, for the show and what we do. But it's been a pleasure to be able to collaborate with you. I know I had the opportunity to collaborate with you through that event with Paper, and that was so much fun. And I've seen you just grow by leaps and bounds on social media. Tell us a little bit about that, and maybe just kind of a, did you ever think that what you were doing or what you were sharing was just going to get you just bam, like all of this attention and these connections? Tell us a little bit about how you started feeling when people are reaching out and things of that sort.
Yeah. So, I mean, 2 years ago, I would say to you that I would have expected what is happening in my life in regards to, the connections that I've made, the people that, are supporting me and I'm supporting them, and the partnerships I've created. I wouldn't even know, where I'm currently at, 2 years ago. It's crazy to see how far things have come. I would just say that I just want to help people, and I want to support people, and I want to learn. And I think that that's what, EduTwitter has provided me. And it's allowed me to, write my blogs and have my podcast, Navigating Education, the podcast, and just meet people, connect with people, like I am right now with you, building a further relationship. And I've really enjoyed that. And, it gives me perspectives that are, not necessarily that maybe the local perspective or, outside the context of where I'm currently at. in North San Diego County, and just seeing what's going on around the world. And it's great just to connect just with people that are experts. I mean, just that are, in high level positions, or teachers that are just doing innovative things that I wouldn't even imagined in the classroom. They're far more creative than I am. So it's so amazing to see that in terms of that global perspective, and just really just taking all that in, and really just amplifying my craft. And it inspires me. I mean, people like you inspire me to want to continue what I've been doing, and produce more things that that can be helpful. And I love collaborating with people. To me, I like doing things by myself, but I love working with other people more than just by myself, because other people bring in those other perspectives and amplify our creativity, versus just me, that I'm only one person and I can only think about so many things. But when I bring other people to the table, it's great. And also it's fun to work with people because maybe they haven't written something before, and we want to work together on a project, and I want to amplify other people as well. I mean, given a platform, you want to not just amplify yourself, but I think what I feel the most proud of is being able to amplify others. I mean, that's what I get the most. I feel good about that, every time that I do that, and, makes me want to come back and do more and more. And that's kind of been my journey. And it's just like any project that I get involved, whether it's partnering with an EdTech company, doing a professional development, or a book project, really enjoyed collaborating. And that's where my next projects are. It's going to be with its major collaborations, and really enjoyed that. And I think that going forward with my writing, at least, is that I don't think I'm going to be doing anything solo for a long time. I think it's going to be with one or two co-authors that we're on this journey together. It's great. It's so much fun working with people, and it's also it allows you to think of ideas that you wouldn't have thought before. And just people, like, for example, on one project, I have someone that is has 30 years of experience, that's worked with districts across the country as a co-author, so they can give me that North American global perspective on education and EdTech. And then you have someone that's on the ground as a classroom teacher that's doing amazing things on the other end of the spectrum. So it's great to have, those different ideas, their contexts. And, I think that ultimately for your writing product, it's going to be better as a result.
Yeah. And I think, you're so kind, and you've always been so humble. And I've loved, like I said, the opportunities that I've had to collaborate with you, because it's always, I get to learn from you. I get to learn from people that have been there or are doing it, or, like you said, finding innovative ways. And I think that power of connection is definitely very, very important. And just like, I want to give a shout out to Josh Tovar, who's joining us right now. And he puts here #Stronger Together. And that's so true. I mean, I agree with you, Matt. Like, right now, I'm taking on my first project, my first writing project with X Factor, and it's something that I'm going to kind of go out there, do on my own, and share my experiences. But I think the collaborative aspect is so important. And for myself, very similar to what you were saying, I'm all about building my PLF, my personal learning family. And definitely it's been a pleasure to have you on, or have you being part of that PLF, and building things, collaborating with other people. And I think that you and I are very similar in that you mentioned, helping others that maybe have never started a project, and just help get them started, or just push them to do new things. And I recently wrote a blog, and my first blog that I got to, or second blog actually, that I got to collaborate with AJ Bianco, and that was great. And I kind of learned that from Matthew, Dr. Matthew Joseph from X Factor, because he actually asked me, he's like, "Hey, do you want to write something with me?" I was like, "Really? Like, you're asking me?" I was like, I don't think I'm that great, but it was great, and it got published. But that kind of planted the seed in me to say, "Hey, I have a friend who's very talented, and he's got this notebook." Because if you've ever seen AJ Bianco when he's on, Unlock the Middle or any podcast that he's, either a guest on. He has this notebook where he takes down notes. And I told him and reached out to him. I said, "Hey, man, like, I'm sure you've got some gold in there and you're just keeping it to yourself, and I get it, but is there anything that you can write?" He's like, "Nah," like, and he's real humble. I said, "Hey, let's do something. Let's write something together on leadership." And I follow AJ because I think AJ's like a great leader, and we collaborate. So I think like what you're saying is finding people that can help you also grow, and you can help them see things in a
Yep.
different perspective, something that's so important. And it's definitely, like you said, amplifying their voice, amplifying our creativity, and taking them and taking ourselves to that next level.
Yeah.
And talking about next level, Matt, I want to talk to you about next level. So you're author, you're, of course, now you've changed your role as far as your professional role. We'll talk a little bit about more of that, but now you expanded also. So those of you that may not know, Matt is also a podcaster. So Matt, tell us a little bit about the podcast and how that idea came about.
Yeah, so the podcast I just enjoyed meeting new people and listening to podcasts myself, and I was just like, why not just start and see how it goes? And people like you and the Staff Room podcast were definitely ones that motivated me to want to get started, and they just had amazing conversations with guests from around the world, and I felt produce something, that I feel like that we're learning back and forth from each other and then putting it out there. And if people want to listen, then that's amazing, because like our conversations may, inspire someone to, do something in their own backyard that can change lives. And that kind of just was the reason behind it. And I called it Navigating Education because it had to do with, the books I've written. And I think that we are all navigating education. I mean, regardless of what we're doing in our profession. And I wanted to keep it open to, K-16 or just whatever realm of education you're in, and just meeting people in all those different areas and talking about those things, because, that, helped broaden our perspectives and learning more about what's going on in various places in the world and different niches in education. And that's kind of the goal, is just to provide our listeners an opportunity to just conversations with people from all walks of life, from teachers, school leaders, EdTech leaders, to people that are doing amazingly creative things in their school or classroom. Just that's what it's about. And it's just just putting it out there, and it's just fun just to meet people. To be honest, it's just fun just sitting you and me right now, just chatting. And as a result, we're recording this and putting it online, and people can enjoy it and watch it and listen, and, hopefully get something out of it. So, I mean, I think it's a thing among podcasters. Maybe that's, a lot of, the genesis of why, a lot of people are doing things with, their podcasts. So that's kind of how that started. And currently we're 26 episodes that are done, and then I have 12 bonus episodes. So it's kind of like a bug, it's like kind of like the writing bug, but you kind of like want to continue to do it. And, since the school year started, it's been a little bit harder to find more time, but I'm trying to put out an episode a week. So that's like my goal.
No, that is amazing, and I love it. Like I said, when I first started doing these, it was just, I think Chris Nessie was just like, just click record, just do it. Like, what are you waiting for? I mean, so doing it, and now you are our 83rd guest, or for episode 83, and I just can't believe, this journey. And I think, like you said, the most important thing is it's just being able to have just these casual conversations. We can go deep, we can stay, at surface level, but there's always going to be a takeaway from somebody, and even for ourselves. And being able to have these conversations, I'm making some notes, and I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe I need to look into these things. Or it changes your perspective. You see things from a different lens, and then you never know who may be watching, who may be listening. And like my friend Al Thomas always said, they're always waiting for you to do that one little thing that's just going to, get that spark going, and maybe even push them to, do podcasting, or like you said, even writing blogs or anything of that sort that we may be talking about. And I think that's so important and powerful now, and in education, that people can listen to a podcast. They're cutting their yard, they've got their headphones in, they're traveling somewhere, they can be listening to some great content that can inspire them, and or maybe just kind of shake things up a bit, and have them see things in through a different lens. And so I really love what you're doing there too as well, and taking on that additional step. And I know it could be very difficult at times, like you said, scheduling things, and but just keep doing what you're doing, my friend, because you're definitely putting out some great content. And as always, it was great to actually also collaborate on one of those episodes with
Yeah.
you about podcasting. So that was a lot of fun. It's very rare I get to be on the other side. So that was great.
No, I definitely was just trying to pick your brain, to be honest, and hopefully people want to learn more about podcasting, because I'm definitely more, I'm a novice with podcasting, getting better every episode, but, picking someone's brain that has over 80, that they can probably lend some good information for, not only myself, but people that are interested in podcasting. So that was a really fun episode, and that one just came out this week. So, definitely, hopefully everyone can check that one out. I mean, we're just talking about podcasting. Like, what are some great, ideas to help you with that workflow, as well as like how to make them engaging and fun. So that was a great conversation.
Yeah, no, it really was. And like I said, I know usually your podcast, you try to keep them like at least 20 some minutes. I know we kind of went over a little bit, but it's because I could keep talking and talking, because it's something that I'm passionate about. But for sure, guys, if you get a chance to listen to it, make sure you check it out. It was a lot of fun being a guest on Matt's show, and keep listening to the amazing episodes that he has. I mean, there's so he's got diversity of topics that they talk about, and you're definitely going to glean something great from it. So definitely check them out. And I have been putting your website, Matt, here in the chat, so that way people can go ahead and check that out. So they were asking, it's navigating education. So I'm going to go ahead and put your podcast link here, because Josh was asking what the name of the podcast is, and I just want to throw this out, what Josh said here: podcast plus treadmill equal healthy mind and body. There you
Nice.
go. Amanda here says students can provide great insight when learning how to podcast.
Yep.
And so, so we've got some great comments here, and putting in your link there into the chat. All right. So kind of as we're winding down here on our episode, Matt, tell us, I know you talked to us a little bit about your role, what it is that you're going to be doing, and you talked about the vision now that you had. And so talk to us a little bit about that, just the transition now. I want to talk to you from the classroom to this current position. What was your first, like, whoa, like I guess that feeling, like, how did it feel now that you're in a different role, and now you're going to be working with, you said, adult education, any things that you have seen that are going to translate very well from classroom now into this new role with you? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that I've learned so far is that really just go in and build relationships with people, go observe their class, talk with them, get to know them, ask them, like, what are you really confident about? Where do you feel like you can improve? And, talk about technology a little bit here and there, seeing what they're using, what are they doing to, what strategies and technology are they doing to deliver their instruction? And then just seeing what's going on around. There's so many moving parts when it's 6 different schools that we're looking at, and there's 3 big ones that we're focusing on the most, because there's the most teachers in those schools. So there's a lot of moving parts, and each school site is different, even though you're part of a similar type of organization. So, understanding like the different personalities, leadership, and whatnot. So that's kind of like the biggest thing for me, is like kind of, conceptualizing all these moving parts, and, building the relationships with everyone, because everyone's different. And then really I'm going through this feeling out phase. And my goal is really to, over the next few months, is, after I get a good idea of kind of what everyone is doing and how everyone kind of their availability, their feeling about learning new things, really starting to focus on building that vision for tech integration for our consortium of schools. And then focusing on that professional learning piece and trying to create professional learning opportunities that are equitable for all of our members. Maybe you can't attend the live session, but we're going to record it and put it onto our YouTube channel and put it along with some materials from that onto our website so that you can participate asynchronously if you want. And, those are things that I think that can be game changing for our faculty because a lot of them are part-time. They have their own careers and day-to-day jobs. And when they come teach for us, they're doing it as, their side gig or they're doing it as something that's part-time. So, really trying to pinpoint like when can we strategically come in and work with PLCs, but also, let's provide opportunities for everyone to learn at the same time. And so that's kind of, and at the same time, we're, developing kind of like, hey, where do we want to go in the next like 2 years in terms of our integration piece? And probably in the next few months, we'll have 2 or 3 things that we're going to come across the board where all teachers and school leaders talk about like, where do we want to go? And then just set up like a implementation of the program. And it's really exciting. It's definitely new. But I think my experiences in the classroom and my research background have given me opportunities. Like I know kind of like what is really, really effective that can be used in online or blended learning, because that's primarily what our programs are for adult education and CTE right now. Because students come in maybe for a lab, a medical lab, but then they have an online portion of the class where they come in for maybe an online tutorial or synchronous session or even asynchronous. So, or it's the class is all online. So there's a lot of different programs going on, but across the board, we can provide strategies that can, regardless of what content you're teaching, can make it more effective and engaging and more active learning are taking place. So that's the really exciting piece of this position and building the program and really just, helping everyone out and supporting them and learning the community, learning about the teachers. And it's definitely challenging, but at the same time, it's a lot of fun because it's something new. And I'm, looking forward to seeing where we're going to go in our network. It's called Education to Career Network of the Consortium of Schools. And I think that there's a lot of really, we have a bright future and definitely looking forward to working with everyone. So it's definitely a change from being in the classroom, but it's also it's like a new opportunity. And I get to talk with people like you who've been doing something similar to this and learning from you. So I'm definitely excited to continue learning and, trying to, put this program in a really good position.
That's great. I really love, really you can hear your passion, you can hear your excitement, and of course, taking on a new role. It's not always easy in the very beginning, but I think you hit on the most important component for any new role or any new position that you may take. And, I agree with what Amanda says here, building, trusting, authentic relationships are vital. And, you going in there and just talking about, like you said, getting to know the people that you're going to be working with, getting to see their level of experience, getting to just know them, how they handle things, what is it that they're in charge of, is something that is very important. And it's a component that you really must be connected with one another, because like in any school district there could be a lot of moving parts. Yep. But if they're not moving in unison, it's all disorganized. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing and things of that sort. But relationships, communication, all of that is key, just to across the board, to make sure that the program is going to be successful. And I know that you have a wonderful vision, and I can already hear it, in what you've shared, the vision that you have, and really to put, this consortium on the map. And I think that it's something that I wouldn't be surprised if you get this up and running and, being noticed by others in no time, especially with the level of experience and the way that you are always willing to go above and beyond. Number one, to build those relationships. Number two, to help build up capacity and build up your teachers and your peers, your colleagues that are there. And I think it's going to be great. And of course, the students, they're going to have a great experience, so it's going to be great. So,
Yeah, no,
I'm
that's the
really
hope for
excited.
sure. Yeah, it's
And as
really exciting.
always, too, man, I mean, you've got a wonderful PLF like
Yep,
everywhere that you can pick their brain and things of that
yep,
sort. And that's the most important thing, that you're looking for an answer. You can go straight to the source or sources and say, okay, let me take a little bit of that. Let me take a little bit of this, sprinkle
yep.
it on to what I already know. And there you go. All of a sudden, it's magic and everything's going and working. So that's awesome, man. I'm really excited about this new, new phase for you as you are moving up professionally, and really using those skills and that you've dialed in, and during and sharpened during this time of pandemic, and taking it to that next level. And so I don't know, man, I just wish you the best, and I'm really excited and looking forward to just the great success stories, that'll be coming out from over there, California, and this consortium. So I'm really excited. So
Yeah, thank you.
excellent. So as we're winding down, let's go ahead and just have a little bit of fun, as far as just a couple of questions that I love to ask at the end. And this is something, as always, if you are a listener, viewer of the show, you already know kind of what questions I may be asking. But I'm going to throw one in there for Matt that he may not expect. But Matt, in your experience, whether it's now in your new role or maybe just in a combination of roles, or just in education in general, what would you say is your edu kryptonite?
Oh man. Uh, I mean, I think now more than anything else is my PLF and PLN, because I get new ideas every day and I use it, I utilize it, and that amplifies everything that I'm doing. So I think that is the best thing I have, my assets, and that ultimately, has helped propel me. And I just want to thank everyone, because without them, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So that definitely is my bread and butter for sure. And just learning from everyone every day.
All right. And just for our viewers and everything, I did say edu kryptonite, but it's okay. I love what Matt said. But Matt, I wanted like your weakness. Like, what
Oh,
is
my
it that, like,
weakness. Oh,
yeah,
my
what, not, but
weakness.
not,
Oh,
not,
kryptonite.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I misheard you. My
No, no,
weakness.
no. It's all good, but not your weakness per se, but just like, man, like, like, what is it? Like, is there a term? Is there something? Is there a practice, like in education currently, or maybe that you have the
Oh,
fear that it's
okay.
coming back, that is just like, oh, that's my kryptonite right
Oh, yeah. So, gosh, that's a tough question. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that definitely can, like my own personal improvement, as well as where we currently are at in education as a whole. Um, I think sometimes my routines, I need to be okay with being uncomfortable without having a routine. And that's personally. Sometimes I feel like I get into my routines, and sometimes life shifts, and I got to be okay with those shifts and taking those, turns. And I think in education in general, I think the major issue right now is we can't go back to normal. Normal is not going to ever happen again, unfortunately. For if anyone wanting to go back to what it was like in March 12th of 2020, that's gone, and we can't, in terms of our integration with technology, we can't go back. There's a pushback right now. I think there's in terms of going back normal brick and mortar. I think that people are making a huge mistake when they want to have that, slight pushback, because the wave has already begun and you're just delaying the inevitable. And I think that is a whole in education. We got to be okay with moving forward and not going back into our old routines, because our old routines, they weren't really working that well anyways. And I think now, if you have thinking about what we've learned over the past 2 years, we can provide more equitable education for everyone at any time, anywhere. And if we go back to where it was before that, that wasn't really in existence in terms of like more mainstream. So that's definitely two things that I think I can come out from this.
Excellent. Okay, good. Good to know. Okay, two final questions, Matt. If you can have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
A billboard. Oh my gosh. So if I had a billboard on anywhere, I guess I would have my I'd have my podcast and a hashtag, I think, of what I am about. I don't know what word it would be, but I think that would be what it would be, or just something so they could follow me and follow who I am. But I haven't figured out what that word is yet. I don't know what word yet would encompass, who I am and what I'm doing right now. So I'd have to get back to you on that. But I think it'd have to do something with my podcast and getting to know me better.
Excellent. Well, that's good. I'm trying to think too. I mean, I know for me, I've always used this, but I always use the hashtag EduLeader. I mean, I do see you as that leader, but maybe if we can figure out a way, and maybe our audience members and our viewers might, get back to us with a comment or something, either on Twitter or anywhere that you follow us. What would be a great hashtag for Matt Rhoads? He does navigating education. I don't want to say navigator of education or education, but let's see what we can think of, guys, that collectively as a PLN, PLF, see what we can think of, and maybe we can make that billboard happen for Matt, and things of that sort. But I definitely agree with you, Matt. But honestly, I do definitely see you as an education leader. So maybe something there along those lines is that leader, I don't know, captain of the ship or something like that, navigating. But yeah, so definitely great. Now, last question, Matt. And well, this one kind of feels a little weird because I have already been a guest on your show, but we did talk about podcasting. But if the roles were reversed right now and you were the host and I was your guest, what is one question you'd like to ask me?
So right now, I would ask you about your new book, because I know that you signed with X Factor, and I haven't really talked to you about like the premise of your book, and it's kind of like a little bit different from where your doctoral research is taking you. So I would just be really curious to learn more about the direction of that book and where you want to go with it.
Excellent. Well, before we do that, let me talk. Amanda here put hashtag the Edu Navigator.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's great.
There you go.
I love that.
So we might have a winner there, Amanda. Thank you so much for sharing. But going back to your question, Matt, that's right. Right now I am currently working on a book, and it's really about it's definitely not dealing with my doctoral studies, but it's something that I'm really passionate about, which is creativity. My mission, my vision, my passion, and my message is to amplify creativity. Now, the way that this started with is just because finding myself in a creative rut a couple of years back, and starting this podcast and starting this live show, getting to meet Al Thomas, who is just an amazing leader, mentor. And he came up with that, and I always repeat that quote that he was told once also, is that you never know who's watching or waiting for you to do that one thing that's going to spark something in you for them to be able to do something. So I really took that message to heart, and the whole everything here about this show, connecting, amplifying creativity, this is kind of an outlet for me now as an adult to be able to take those creative risks. So what amplifying creativity is it's kind of like a two-part. And what the book is going to be how us as adults, and educators, anybody with a background who have kind of lost touch with their creativity, because of course we get busy, we've got families, we've got jobs, we've got all of those things. But really, to draw out what is already in there. Maybe or the fear of overcoming that fear of putting yourself out there and being creative, whether it's photography, whether it's drawing, whether it's arts and crafts, whether it anything, but just to be able to get back in touch with your creative side. And mainly for educators too, is that I feel that if we as adults and adult educators uh, are in touch with our creativity and seeing what we can do and just having fun and playing, I mean, just enjoying platforms. Like I did a challenge on my other account where it was one creation a day. I did it for 84
So
days straight. And what that helped me see is like, hey, people can be creative with apps. You don't have to be an artist. So I wanted to take off that misconception that you have to be an artist or be able to draw a perfect circle or anything like that. It's creativity, just it's from anything, something so simple. Just create something on your own.
I
But
love that.
what I love is that that will translate back into the classroom and allow for students to actually create. I know that we often say, oh, amplify voice, amplify creativity, but we really don't give our students enough time to really express themselves, to really take in the information that they're learning and just giving them time to create and the process, because then they'll be able to internalize those concepts. And that's something that from my experience in the classroom the last 4 years as a teacher, I really just put Chromebooks in front of my students and just said, here is the rubric. I want you to create something based on what we just did.
Hmm.
And that's going to
Hmm.
be the way that I'm going to check for understanding. And oftentimes it's by third grade. I had this conversation with Tisha Poncio. Third grade here in our state of Texas, that is when they do the state exams, and everything, at least in brick and mortar, becomes worksheet, 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 worksheet. There's ultimate like consumption to the max, no creativity. And then once the students in ninth grade, when they start taking those state exams, then that you see kind of like that creativity kind of take off a little bit more. But that really is the overall message, how a teacher can feel, number one, comfortable with their creative side, because you are putting yourself out there, being a little bit vulnerable when you might want to try something in your classroom, but also just really being that model for the students to say, hey, I'm not just going to be here to force feed you everything. I
Yeah.
want you to create, see the thought process, and have them connect with a way that they can, really give you that information, and you can still check for understanding. So that's really what the book is about, amplifying creativity, both as a teacher within yourself, but also for our students as well. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, that sounds super exciting, and I think that you can provide examples of your personal journey and people in your PLF as examples of that and what they're doing. Yeah, that's gonna be a powerful book. I'm really excited to read it once it's all done, and support you along the way. That's gonna be a game changer, and I can tell you on my end is that I mean, as a creator, I wasn't really creating anything for anyone else except for me until 2 years ago,
Mhm.
and I didn't know what I thought being creative was being like an artist or being someone that is making incredible graphics or that type of thing. And I think sometimes we put ourselves in a box, and I've learned that you can take yourself outside that box, and there's a lot of different avenues of what creativity looks like, and I think that you're going to definitely define that, and that's going to be really fun to take a look at and reflect upon as a reader, as well as your practice. That's going to be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. Like I said, just a great opportunity. And again, it just comes from, getting that writing bug, like you said, and also like seeing yourself and seeing other great leaders, writing and putting things out. I said, maybe I should start doing this. And it is a bug. Like you catch it and you want to write and you want to share and you want to just put it out there. And, it's a lot of fun. So I'm really excited about this great opportunity. And of course, hopefully in the future too, that'll lead to future collaborations, much like what you do. And it's exciting because you get to amplify creativity with somebody else and see their creative side and learn from others. And in the end, the education community is the one that benefits. And in some way, shape, or form, I hope that what you're doing also, and what many others are doing out there, also can make its way down to our students, to be for them to also get a little bit of that knowledge and getting passed down and helping change, their train of thought, their thinking, and inspire them to just continue to move forward in education and just to continue to grow. So really, I mean, the end result for me is always, if a student can be impacted in a positive way, then that's a win, even if it's just one, but that's a win. So it's really exciting stuff, man.
Yeah, for sure. I'm
Great.
excited.
Hey, great question, man. You definitely have honed in your skills in the podcasting now. So that's awesome, my friend. All right. Well, Matt, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate, again, you taking the time to be here and just have this amazing conversation and just to be able to catch up, after several months of, us being busy working and you authoring books and doing other projects and things of that sort. So it's been great to see your growth. It's been great to see the projects that you're doing, the people that you've been able to connect, and more so also the people that you've been able to help through your work, through your writing, through your PD, all those things that you do. So I definitely wish you the best in this new role, and I wish you the best in the next couple of years as you continue to grow, and being that edu leader, the edu navigator, and so it's exciting, man. I'm really happy for you, man. And again, thank you so much for being here on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Fonz. I appreciate it. This show's making a huge impact, and can't wait to see where we're at in another year. So it'll be fun to check back in the next year. So hopefully on this show. So
yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. And for all our audience members, those of you watching, those of you that'll be listening, podcast will be up shortly in about 45 minutes or so. But give us a like, give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel. Visit our website, myedtech.life. You can check out some blogs. You can check out all the previous 82 episodes that we have had. You can also check out our merch store if you like to support our show. Go get yourself a shirt, guys. We've got some great designs out there for you: stickers, magnets, cups, anything you'd like. Just visit our website and you can find everything there. And again, it's been a pleasure to be here with you guys this Saturday. Thank you so much for joining. And we look forward to seeing you next Saturday when we'll have an amazing show for you as well. But until next time, my friends, don't forget, stay techie.